I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Sains, joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook and the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. We're here to discuss 1841 Parallel Time, episode 1224. Holy shit. Grayson Hall narrates this episode. I love how they do the playback from where they left off here. It feels so crisp and so good. What did you think of this here, the opening?
The opening was great. I think it catches people up really well, and it sets up the stakes. And it reminded me, so even though I'd seen this a bunch, the idea that they didn't really know he was possessed, I thought they just kind of knew it. And it reminded me that they didn't, and that they're figuring it out. And there is more originality in terms of dealing with the supernatural in this episode than maybe in any other Dark Shadows episode, in terms of what it implies and where it could go for future stories. And I think it's exactly how they were going to set up a Fridless 1971 future Barnabas. Yeah. And I can go into that now, or I can go into it later.
Go into it. Go ahead and go into it now, and then we'll cover the episode.
Okay. Well, I mean, some of this it comes out of covering the episode. So, one of the things that we're dealing with in the episode is we are dealing with the weirdest possession story ever. Because normally when we see a possession story, the person suffering is kind of insane, or they're ranting and raving, and the most they can tell the priest is it's an excellent day for an exorcism, and everything's downhill from there. And that you don't deal with kind of this strange sense of the only thing I can call James Forsyth here is this sense of avenging Zen.
Yep.
That he even Julia says, he's so calm. He's like, I think she's the one who says he's disturbingly calm and rational.
Yep.
You see Keith Prentice smile.
Yep.
And it made me realize, oh my God, we've never seen this guy smile. He's got a hell of a smile. But the idea of possession as a vehicle for time travel, which this is a time travel story. This is James Forsyth traveling from 1590, I think. Mm-hmm. Is that when that is? Or maybe that's when the Bedford trial was. Whenever the flashback takes us to. That year, the era of pointy beards and ruffled collars, straight to, the future of 1840, where he's solving a crime. Yeah. He's hunting down the body of Sarah.
Yeah.
And this for me is the premise for an entire television show, where you die and you find yourself basically where he's found himself as this inhabiting this body fully, and yet you have some of the insight and inner calm of having been dead for a couple hundred years. Because he knows, sort of, I think, that he's been dead. He knows that he's kind of a ghost that's taken. He knows the existence of a curse.
Yeah.
Because he has to say, I'm not the cause of the curse. He doesn't say what curse. Yeah. So he is somewhat cognizant. That allows the writers to go wherever they want. So now that we've established this, and now that we've established that, Keith Prentice is our guy, now that we've established all of that, you go to the 1970s, and modern day Morgan Collins shows up and is possessed by the spirit of Barnabas.
Yeah.
And you're off to the races.
Yeah. There's a really interesting line here, too, by Kerry Stokes. She says he's in his own time now. Now, that's a really interesting line. Now, I know we don't see him and he's not here. But do you think because she's psychic, she has these weird abilities? I don't think she's meaning James Forsythe, because James Forsythe, the spirit at least, is possessing Morgan. He's not in his own time. I mean, James Forsythe, and Morgan isn't either. Do you think she's meaning Barnabas? That
No,
he traveled back to 1795?
I would love to say yes.
Yeah.
I would love for that to be the story, and I
I
applaud your imagination for thinking that's possible. But there's no payoff for that,
I know. I know.
and that's the problem. I mean, now by the same token, if I were a viewer at the time who didn't know where this was going, and then yeah, I think it would occur to me, and I'd
Yeah.
be kind of disappointed when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But you know, nothing has been set up, nothing has been forwarded to
No.
suggest the necessity for Barnabas's spirit.
No, you're right.
We will be horribly haunted by a man who is happy and at peace. You know, calm sounds. He will make sounds of Enya and ocean breezes at night. Well, they already have the ocean breezes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It'll be a nightmare of birds chirping in the morning. What are we going to? No, you know.
No, I got you.
There's a rainbow outside my window. Stop.
I really love Keith Prentice in this episode. Man, he's so good. You're right.
He is good.
He doesn't really smile at all as Morgan, but here as James Forsythe, man, he really steals these couple
He's
episodes.
happy as a clam.
I mean,
you know, as happy as you can be digging up your dead
yeah.
Sarah Forsythe, but yeah.
And I love when he does finally sort of holler. It doesn't really come across like Morgan. It comes across like James Forsythe, where he goes, "I know,
Keith, you fooled us."
Yep, man, what a talent! I mean, that's what I'll say.
He is.
He had talk about literally your future of Dark Shadows. He was it, and I mean him and Selby for sure. Because I mean, David would have come back, you know.
Sure. And what a head of hair! They found the one guy with a better head of hair than David Selby and Joel Carruthers combined.
Could you have seen them like taking the hair and like trimming it up a little, like not making it so bushy, but more making it long in the back?
Who, on Keith Prentice?
Yeah, for like if he appeared in 1971 to look a little different.
Oh, I'm sure they would have.
Yeah.
I'm sure I probably would have been puffier on the sides. He would have looked like the neighbor on Three's Company. The Regal Beagle. Richard Klein.
Yeah.
And Catherine was in I think a Lifetime movie or a Hallmark movie with Richard Klein.
Yeah. With this episode, I love Grayson Hall in this episode. There's a lot going on. You have where it feels like her and Catherine are going to come together, but because Morgan comes to Collinwood and there's a private conversation Bramwell comes to Collinwood, Bramwell and Catherine have this private conversation. Julia sort of walks in on them, and this is where Julia sort of pulls her fangs back out in a sense, and she's not too happy that Catherine's talking to Bramwell. She feels there's some sort of secret between them. Yes, there is. You're right, but
Bramwell ruins everything. I love him, but it's like, great. It's not a party till Bramwell shows up.
He's the ultimate party crasher too.
Well, he is, and he ruins everyone's night. She marries him, and now she's upset. Now because Bramwell shows up, because he leaves. And it's like, and look at this from Bramwell's point of view. It's like, you don't want me to show up. You don't want me to leave. What do you want me to do? Climb into a coffin for 200 years? Oops.
Yeah, he makes Catherine's life a little miserable because every time he leaves, everybody's always arguing with her, whether it's Morgan or Julia.
You wonder if does he stand outside and go, mission accomplished?
I bet he does. I mean, you know what? This is probably the sort of the opposite of Kendrick. Instead of being at the Blue Well, he just waits at the old house and goes, yep, you know what? I think it's time to visit Catherine again.
They're on shifts. they're on shifts. It's like, well, Kendrick just left. What time is it? It's about just as I thought. Let me guess. Bramwell. You rang? You called for me? No, we didn't, but you're at the door anyway, Bramwell. What would you like to do?
Well, you're here now. What the hell?
I brought smelling salts.
Yeah, I love how that's the line too with Julia. She's like, I got the smelling salt if you still need it.
It's a great catty moment.
It really is. And I love how Laura Parker is really doing a really great job selling the fake fainting or the dizziness. Really good here. I really love Daphne Heritage's scene between her and Bramwell because really deep down, Daphne knows Bramwell still loves Catherine, and Catherine still loves Bramwell. I think she more married Bramwell to get the two of them to admit it than anything.
Boy, that's a really desperate move. Maybe she just should have sat down and had a talk with them or something first. It's like, well, if that doesn't work, I can always marry him.
If Bramwell would have just took Daphne upstairs and did to her what he did to Catherine, she'd have been all right. I'm
gonna let that one sit with the female viewers. And I'm going to be the classy one for once.
Listen, when a man and woman get married, okay?
Yeah, I know none of these things, so please inform me.
There's this thing. It's called a honeymoon. Now, if you don't travel for your honeymoon, that's fine. I didn't. You could go to the bedroom and there's this little fun activity. It's called sex. You're supposed to do that with your significant other, your wife. But hey, what the hell do I know?
Joel, I don't know, but I'm gonna pop some popcorn because I can't wait to hear what's next. Now, please elaborate.
Well, okay. Daphne marries Bramwell. Okay, a couple episodes ago, they have done nothing together. I mean, there's been no sex. There's been barely. The only time they kissed is when they probably said "I do," or prior to that. And it's like these two literally are not touching each other, let alone with their hands, let alone with a 10-foot pole. It's like,
I don't know that much about Bramwell, but continue.
It's like you married a guy who is not doing anything with you, and you know that he still loves your sister, like Daphne, your girl. Just either just take Bramwell, club him, drag him upstairs, and just do the deed. Just do the deed. It'll be okay.
It's just that simple.
It really is.
Are the laws different in Pennsylvania? I have to ask. Is this some like weird Dutch thing that we don't know about?
Well, in Pennsylvania, you see what happens is when you marry a woman, okay?
Yep.
Okay. And the woman is very aggressive. What they'll do what most Pennsylvania women will do, and I'm kidding, by the way, will knock the man unconscious, and they'll wake up like, oh, what happened?
And they'll be pregnant.
I'm kidding, by the way. But no, I just think that
of course,
when you're in all seriousness, when you're in a loveless marriage, like Daphne has put herself in, and she said she thought about it. In many ways, when you're in a marriage with no love attached to it, it's the worst kind of marriage you can be in. And I love the dynamic that Daphne brings, that the character brings, because she's constantly pressuring Bramwell and talking to him about things. Like she knows where he's going. She knows he's going to Collinwood to see Catherine. And she even says in this episode, it's always going to be Catherine. And I love that line because she's right.
Yeah.
So really great performance by Kate Jackson in this episode, just bringing that out of Bramwell to the point of he walks away from her, but it's like she's right though. You know?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, she's not there's that's the thing. I don't think Kate Jackson's character is a total waste here, like a total waste of time in this arc, because there are moments where Kate Jackson, from an actor standpoint, is really shining with her dialogue.
Sure.
You know?
Sure, absolutely.
What's your favorite part in this episode?
I think seeing James Forsythe and his detective work and just his work with Carrie again. They really who knew that the shining duo, the best two-handers in this section of the series would be with Keith Prentice and Kathy Cody, and God bless both of them. They're fantastic in this, but I feel like I'm seeing something really fresh. I feel like I'm watching the pilot to a Quinn Martin series that never got made. I mean, this is like a future fugitive TV series. I think it's the best idea I'm going to steal that I've seen in a long time.
If Dark Shadows would have continued, would they have recasted David Collins?
Because why would they? I don't know. I think
because David
Hennessy have quit.
Well, that's the thing. I know, like, eventually David Hennessy does leave the show. Do you think they would have been able to get him back?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, it's like, Mr. Hennessy, would you like money doing something you're very familiar and comfortable doing? You would?
Yeah, why not?
You'll be in college just enough so you don't have to go to Vietnam?
I think what we would have seen too would have been David Hennessy, his character David Collins, and Kathy Cody's character. At that time in 1970 regular time, we would have seen a relationship start between the two.
They would have been the Luke and Laura.
Yep. They absolutely would have.
And I think David Hennessy would have made a fantastic Laura.
But for this episode, I really, really love Laura Parker's dynamic of the conversation. Yeah, she tries to really reach her husband, but she realizes her husband's possessed, and she's trying to figure out still how, even in this episode, how can she reach her husband Morgan? It's what happens later on is really heartbreaking to watch, because you do realize here's Catherine, who did try to reach her husband.
Yeah.
She didn't abandon him at all. She didn't know what to do, and who would? I mean, Julia doesn't know what to do. Quentin's not in this episode. Neither is Flora. You know
who would have known what to do?
What's that?
Magda.
Yep.
Magda. Yeah, she would have thrown him a party. Welcome back.
Yep. She would have definitely knew what to do. Oh my God. Could you imagine Magda in this arc? Oh my
God. There is a sauce, Jewel. I don't know if you know about this sauce. It's called Maggie Sauce. Maggi.
Uh-huh.
So much of the food you enjoy in restaurants that tastes really good is made really good because of Maggie Sauce. It is a chef's secret, but you can buy it in, Asian groceries, sometimes mainstream groceries. It makes everything better. It has MSG in it, and it enhances the natural flavors that are around it. Magda is the Maggie Sauce of this show. Put her in anything. I sometimes wonder that they didn't find some way to bring Magda to the present, because it just would have overpowered the show.
It will.
But God, can you imagine her versus the Leviathans? Magda versus Nicholas Blair?
Really, Grayson Hall's best character. I love Julia Hoffman, but
Grayson's having the time of her life as Magda. So yeah.
I mean, what a character. And I did a retrospective on that. But really great character. And it'd have been fun to see her here. Now she isn't here, but I love this dynamic. But I have two favorite scenes. One is obviously Laura Parker being in the drawing room, still thinking of a way to reach her husband, and obviously when Keith Prentice as James Forsythe in Morgan Collins's body is in the room. He's found his sister's body, and he yells for the ghost of Brutus. Really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Just criminally good.
I love it.
Is there anything you want to add about this episode?
It is one of those Dark Shadows episodes that appears subtle on the surface. And if you're only paying about 75% attention, you're going to miss stuff. But if you give it 100% of your attention, wow. Sometimes an episode does most of the work for you.
Yeah.
Not this one, but if you meet it all the way, it's a really exciting, and it just crackles with potential energy.
I think too, like after this arc, if Dark Shadows would have continued, because what we're seeing in this arc too is a very, very confident Kathy Cody.
Yes.
And we would have continued to see that if
I agree.
The show would have continued and she would have got a lot more time with David Hennessy, and it'd have been a lot better than what it was.
I agree.
Just great episode, really, really good. And I love what's your favorite in this arc? What's your favorite set?
I like what they've done with the old house.
Yeah.
The darker sort of palette with the forest greens, it's richer. It feels a little more, it broods a little bit more. So I kind of like that. But the room, the haunted room, I mean, you can't turn away from that.
No, you can't. I think I like not necessarily just the haunted room, but I'm not going to reveal what because we haven't got to that episode yet, but what's in downstairs, that set right there is really creepy.
It is.
It's really dark. I won't reveal it because we haven't got to that episode yet, guys, but trust me, it's really, really cool. For Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook of Mountain, link will be in the description box where you can get that bad boy, and you better go pick it up. It's really, really good. Patrick, what are you doing? Let's see, Friday night.
After probably around 9, nothing.
Yes. Okay, we'll do episode 1225 of 1841 Parallel Time. What do you say, buddy? All right, see you Friday night, dude. Peace.
Take care.
You too. Bye.